In today's video, we're going to talk about new construction versus existing. What's the difference? Is it even called pre-existing? No, that's what the disease is. So you leave that over there. It's not a pre-existing house. It's an existing house. It's a pre-existing disease. A little funny. But the truth is, there are pros and cons to both. And if you'll stick with me through the video, we'll just touch on that all the way through. Just kind of pros, cons, what is it? And honestly, there's so many great offerings in the Middle Tennessee area. It's really tailored to a one-on-one thing with you, and I want to make sure that we cover that on our one-on-one calls together and we understand time frames and things like that. But stick with me, we talk about it. So thanks for following along and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're talking about the pros and cons of new construction versus existing. It seems like through my 21 years, I have always had people say, do I want this instead of this? Well, first of all, I can't tell you what you want, but I can certainly help you maneuver through and navigate through those questions. So let's talk about pros and cons of both. There are many of both. What's a con to me might not be a con to you, but there are things that I'd like to just kind of lay out there and explain that I think would be important in just educating you on the differences between the two. Like I said, just because you view it as a con doesn't make it a con about a certain product. It's just what's tailored to you and what's important. So we need to get on those calls. Stay with me through the video and we'll talk about those things and touch on those lightly. And then let's see where this takes us so that we can talk about what's right for your family. Hey, so welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about the differences in an existing home and new construction and in Tennessee and what that's like. And so I wanted to touch on a couple of things. One of the things is when you're talking about an existing home, it's not pre-existing. That's in the disease world. Pre-existing disease, not pre-existing home. It's either existing or it's new construction. So we're going to touch on those. We're going to talk about some pros and cons of each. And so welcome back to the channel. Here we go. In a new construction home, you can sometimes customize your amenities and home. Sometimes. I know a lot of builders in the Nashville area are basically spec or custom spec. A lot of them are just spec. You get what you see and you can do your updates later. But it's great. They offer great warranties. I like these builders. I'm not even trying to say that you don't want that. I just find that oftentimes they recently, in certain price ranges, certain areas, they build a home. You get to make a few selections from some possible offerings when it comes to their collections. And then that's it. So, you can do all your other updates afterwards. But there are some real pluses to having new construction. Modern amenities are in there, the latest and greatest, and everything you've seen on Pinterest and Zillow and all those good things that have caught your eye and maybe made you, interested in buying one of these. Those are going to be in there. They might be more energy efficient depending on when they were built and what you're comparing it to. That's a generalization. That is not a matter of fact. You'll have some warranties. In the state of Tennessee, builders do have to give you a 1-year builder's warranty. So that's everything, that's electrical or structural for a period of 1 year. A lot of builders do more than that, and some of them only do that. So again, when we get on our one-on-one call, we will talk about the things that are important to you. One of the builders I've worked with recently gives you an 11-month, let's come back through and look at all the cosmetics, which is unheard of. A lot of people don't do that. And then they give you a 2-year and a 10-year remaining warranty. So we can talk about some of that as well. But very, very nice. A lot better than a 1-year builder's warranty. And those are different per builder. But the warranties are important, and that's something that you want to think about. When you're talking about an existing home, the warranty period may be over. Depending on the age of the property, it may not be. If you've got a 30-year architectural roof warranty, and you buy a 10-year-old house, you're still well within that. But you might be well within your replacement period of your water heater. And if it hasn't been replaced, then that might be something to anticipate doing soon. So you have other things that, of course, we would talk about on our 101. You may also be offered a home warranty if you were buying an existing home, where the sellers say, hey, this house has been great. We've had no problems. We want you to have a warranty should you have any in the future, but this house has been updated. It's great. And here's a warranty that we want you to have. So those are things that you can get in an existing home as well. Some people consider new construction lower maintenance. You just have less to take care of on the front end for the next, hopefully, couple of years, to anticipate any problems. So you don't have to replace things typically, unless operator error. If it's your fault it changed, you are going to replace that, and you can't expect the builder to take responsibility for that. But that is something to consider. So lower maintenance on things is a pro to buying new construction that people anticipate, and why they look at that sometimes. The builders may not be as flexible on price as sellers of an existing home, and if that's what you think you really want to do is negotiate down on a price rather than actually negotiate all the offering, then maybe this isn't for you at all, first of all. But let me just be very straightforward and say that we want to talk one-on-one about your needs and what your desires are and what your thoughts are about buying and selling real estate, because not all houses are overpriced. Not everybody puts their house on too high. Builders don't do it either. So it's not the generic HGTV or whatever it is that you've got in your mind about real estate in the Middle Tennessee area. I've been doing it 21 years. Not all houses are overpriced. Okay, so those are the things, though, that you want to keep in mind when you're talking about, hey, I want to find a great deal. I want somebody who's going to work with me, and I don't need as much from them, so I'd rather just pay less. Or I would like for them to pay my closing costs, so I understand their asking price. Maybe I'd like to have some contributions towards buying my rate down. Builders may not be as flexible on price as sellers of existing homes, but they may have some wonderful offerings that they're willing to provide, and we'll consult on that as well. So potential construction issues. It's always weather permitting. So in the spring, April showers bring May flowers. You may not get finished if the rain is out there affecting your build time, whether it's getting block in the ground and getting started, or whether it's finishing up and getting that yard in. So those are some things that are just minor cons that could be something to consider on new construction. But an existing home also could have that problem. Hey, they couldn't move out in the rain, and so you're going to be delayed a couple of days. So there's a couple of little things on that we might want to talk about one-on-one. Now, when you're talking about existing homes, you are absolutely talking about, and you can view this as a pro or a con. I look at it as a pro. You definitely have a wider range of variety and styles of homes, okay? Because obviously, if it came before today's newest, latest, and greatest look, it's going to have several years offerings of what was hot and fabulous at that time. So you have a lot wider variety of styles in an existing home market. But again, existing could just be 6 months ago. They closed on it yesterday. Now it's existing. Okay, it's still new construction for a year. But the point is, it's when it goes back on the market in 6 months or 6 years, it's existing. So that's something to keep in mind. When you talk about the established neighborhoods, depending on the age of the property, there could be one thing that you could consider is that the home may have outlasted its covenants and restrictions. So that could be really cool. Now it may not have an HOA, or it may have re-upped it, but that's something to consider when you're talking about your payment. So click on the link below, talk to my preferred lender. You all will decide whether that's a comfortable payment level for you, and you and I will go out and we'll find the right place. But that's something to consider in an existing home over new construction, because new construction oftentimes is going to have brand new covenants, brand new HOA fees, and those fees will factor into whether you are comfortable in paying that monthly payment if you're financing that. So that's something to think about. Time frame on an existing home, again, you could probably get into that a little sooner. That can be really nice. Typically, people, if they're a family, they're just waiting for school to get out and they'll go on, but they don't want to miss the sale, so possibly might consider going ahead and moving out early if you're coming in and you're wanting to buy their property. So things like that are negotiable. Those are things that we want to talk about again on our one-on-one. But the lifestyle situation too, in an existing home, if they have an existing community feel, wonderful vibe offering there, maybe they have community events, maybe they have the community playground and pool. That's nice too. So that's something to think about. And oftentimes in your new construction, you'll have those things, or that could be an option. So lots of things to think about there that could be pros and cons. I look at it as if it's a pro, it's going to be something you're going to pay for. You might view that as a con. I look at it as something that's just part of that community offering. And if we don't want to do that, then maybe we'll go find one somewhere else. But I look at it as all pros on that, just kind of information for you. It doesn't really make it a con, but it is something that could be viewed as such. There have been times in our market where it shows days on market as over a year. That may have several factors. Maybe they overbuilt, maybe depending on where it was in the market in the Middle Tennessee area, you had less people coming into it. Even though it had not been occupied, it was still considered new construction, but now it might actually appraise possibly as an existing home. That's kind of an interesting dynamic. I typically get on with my appraiser friends and just ask, how do you view this property, so that I can understand it and convey that information to you best. It's always good to know, people in my industry, because we do converse about that. But does that make it a bad house because it sat longer? No. Does that make it a bad house or undesirable? No. Some realtors list a house and their sellers require them to do it the day they get it, before they even break ground and move dirt. Well, that 365 days later, they've just finished because maybe they had rain, sleet, snow, and shine, and they're building it and it's a bigger product. So don't let that scare you when you see days on market on a new construction home. But it could actually be sometimes considered existing if it's sat for over a year. So we'll talk about that more in depth on our call. Just didn't want that to scare you. In Nashville, Tennessee, and this is an average of all the homes, the average was that new construction was actually selling for less price per square foot than existing homes. So a lot of people find that attractive too. Axios reported that it was $7.10 less per square foot. Now, this is a generalization of all the homes in the Nashville area, but Nashville's in Middle Tennessee, and it kind of encompasses a whole lot. So I just find this to be interesting facts. According to Zillow, homes sell for $3.50 higher per square foot if they're existing. Probably because they have a lot of upgrades in them, that after you've gotten this wonderful new product, people might come in and do a few more things to it. Find this to be an interesting fact. So just wanted to tell you that. Prices, of course, fluctuate according to the materials used, who builds it, where it's built, and of course the cost of the land as well. So these are general facts. These are not individually tailored to one specific product. This is an overall new construction versus existing. What can I get and where can I get it? For how much can I get it? So don't let this all paint a terrible picture of either product. Some of the trends that have really, we found upward moving in the Middle Tennessee area in our new construction market is that minimalist look, that energy efficiency that comes along with some of the newer builds, of course, the smart technology that comes with some of the homes, smart homes, we've mentioned that on other films, the appeal of the contemporary design. It's not just the minimalist look, but the contemporary look, moving from other markets that had that, and then Nashville and the surrounding areas start offering that for you. The scalability, the walkability of that new urban area that 15-minute neighborhood where you can really just find everything around you pretty quickly in that general area. The thriving job market here has really propelled a lot of new inventory and a lot of new opportunity for buyers to come into the Nashville area and surrounding areas, Middle Tennessee, and find something within a 30-mile drive to their new office or their, stay at home, be able to work from there and have all those comforts and everything that they need in that home. Now, can you make an existing home into that product? You certainly can. So it depends on the various items that you want for that, but that's something to think about. It's really propelled the growth and the fluctuation of our building and our real estate market as a whole, being in the Middle Tennessee area with everything that's gone on in the last 5 to 10 years in the Nashville area. So expect nothing more than continual growth, continual real estate upward trends as we go forward, because we're not anticipating anything but positive growth in this kind of sector. One of the things that we definitely want to talk about are the financing incentives for buyers, and they are not always tied to using the builder's lender, but there are oftentimes some of that. So I want you to understand that builders will oftentimes give incentives, but we want you to use our guy because our guy knows whether, that's who we do business with, and we'll know if you can actually finance this house and not just keep our house off the market. People want to do business with people who are serious, so we want to be serious when we go and put in offers, depending on how that goes. We want you to have that. So that is an attractive thing about new construction and builder incentives. They are there. They're sometimes tied to using their lender, but they are there, and people find that attractive. The less money you have to spend out of pocket yourself to get all the things you want and to take care of your family may be appealing. On the side of the existing home, an existing homeowner may not be able to afford to do that for you. Maybe they're moving quickly after having bought a few years ago. Maybe they just don't have that. So it's not that their house isn't as good, it's that they can't offer those to you. So you have to decide if you're willing to pay some things out of pocket yourself to have the home that you want, if that's that home, or if you're just tied to what will somebody give me. That really is something that's a big need of mine. So we will, again, talk about that one-on-one as to what your priorities are. But those are things that make real differences in the new construction versus the existing home buying process in the Middle Tennessee area. When you're talking about being a new construction home or an existing home as a seller, I have to always tell my sellers, hey, we're out there competing against other people just like you, but we're also competing against new construction. And this month's incentives are very different than they were even 3 months ago. Now they're giving away everything. So be prepared for that. Side note, as a seller that I'm working with, I'm going to tell you that because it's just true. When we get on our one-on-one calls, we can talk about these things that are so important to you, and we'll base it on the area, and we'll look at the comps, and we'll talk about those things, and we'll get on that Zoom call and further that discussion. And then when you come over here, we'll have a game plan in mind for what's really going to work for you in your time frame. And that's important too. When you're coming to Nashville next month, you're going to live here, you got to find a place. We're going to go look at everything that could fulfill that for you based on your needs, based on your financial ability. If you have several months and lots of time, we don't want to go out there and fall in love with anything. We want to get really strategic about what's important to you, and let's get a game plan in action. Let's make sure our finances are in order, however that goes down, and let's go and find that product for you based on your individual needs. That's why the call is so important. So in conclusion, let me just say that I like both products. I think I gave you pros and cons of both products, existing, not pre-existing, remember that, and new construction, new homes. I mean, there's so many good things to say about both products. There's so many great products all over Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky. I'm licensed in both states, so don't forget that. But please like and subscribe to the channel. We'll go on more in-depth calls when you do call me one-on-one, and we'll talk about, again, your family's needs, what's important, what you like, what you don't like, and where you want to be And then we'll look at the options in those areas. Both things are great. New construction's great, has a lot of pros, a few cons. Existing homes are great. They have a lot of pros. There might be a few cons. There are things about your details that'll help us actually be able to pinpoint the right place. If you're a seller, please know the right buyer will always present itself. If you're a buyer, the house that's perfect for you will always present itself. I always tell my people that. We need to be strategic. We need to be serious. We need to go when it's in your time frame. And we can't do that, or I can't help you navigate that unless we do it correctly. That's getting pre-qualified. So don't forget to hit the link below and talk to my lender. That is definitely having the strategy in place. And that is definitely going out and looking for what is right for your family. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.